card like these. And it'll be interesting to see how Orcus have evolved.
Well, that's it. It's game number 1. The NAWCQ is underway right now, and the duels are about to begin. All right, let's jump into the die roll. Oh, an 11. Man, these duels are rolling great numbers. 5's not going to beat an 11, so it looks like Nick is going to be starting the duel off here. Time to see what Lunalights can do when going first. Now, it is an incredible deck, but unfortunately, some of the plays kind of play into some disruptions that are in a lot of players' decks. So it's not about like how strong your inboard is, but it's how much you can play into those interruptions and still produce something that would be sizable. But this is why I recently picked up Lunalights. I was a big Tri-Brigade player back in the day, and the fact that you can use Tri-Brigade Fractals in this deck, since it already uses 3 copies of Fire Formation Tinky typically, it gives you something to add, because the brand new Silverhound, if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, it can just special summon a Lunalight monster from the deck to the field, and there's the brand new Lunalight Gold Leo. On summon, it's going to be able to add a Lunalight from the deck to the hand, and then you have to discard a card. You may think the discard is a downside, but it's actually an upside in this scenario. So you see the yellow Martin that I mentioned earlier? If it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, as it is here, it can add a Lunalight spell. Not Lunalight Perfume, since it's Luna Space Light Perfume, but it can add the brand new Lunalight Masquerade.
But don't fear, there is actually a brand new way to access Perfume, as perhaps you'll see in this a little bit from the extra deck.
And with no interruptions yet, I think we were going to see it very, very soon. It looks like he does have a copy of Tinky already. Not going to have to go into Tiger King or anything at some point, so he's going to go Fire Formation Tinky Neck. He could get something like Lunalight Tiger, or he's going to go for Kaleido Chick here, it looks like.
Yeah, he still has his normal summon. He definitely wants access to Kaleido Chick.
All right, next up is Masquerade. Masquerade, once per turn during your main phase, you can send a Lunalight monster from your deck to the graveyard. It also lets you add Polymerization back to your hand from your graveyard when you fusion summon. And then you can discard an additional card and then use your graveyard to banish monsters from your graveyard to fusion summon.
Yeah, that's an interesting effect. When you play against this strategy, one of the things to note is you kind of commit early to that additional discard to boost Masquerade, basically, to add that additional effect to banish from the graveyard. And if the Lunalight player chooses not to do that when they first utilize their Masquerade, it might actually make them weak to certain cards later in the game, like maybe something like Ghost Ogre on Lunalight Wolf, or some comment or Polymerization more specifically. It might force them to make a Polymerization play where they are planning on using something that ends up being moved from the field, and then they end up having to make a weaker Polymerization play because they didn't do the additional effect of Masquerade early that would allow them to banish from the graveyard.
Definitely. Now, what we saw here is something really cool from Lunalight. So you might be wondering what happened. So Kaleido Chick can send any Lunalight from your extra deck or deck to the graveyard. Leo has the other effect that if a Lunalight is sent to the graveyard, you can add it back to your hand. So it's kind of a cool way to search for another card from your deck. So he sent the Black Sheep, then the Leo added the Black Sheep back in the hand, then he discarded the Black Sheep to search for Polymerization, then activated Polymerization to fuse his 2 monsters for the Lunalight Perfume Dancer. Lunalight Perfume Dancer on summon can add that Lunalight Perfume, as you mentioned before. And now he's going to activate Lunalight Perfume. It's a Perfume Dancer, so it makes sense that it would add the perfume. And he's going to be able to special summon back the Kaleido Chick. Kaleido Chick is once per turn, but not by name. So every time it's on the field, you'll be able to use its effect again, and it's a great way to fill up your graveyard with these fusion monsters that will help you fusion summon later on. But the brand new Silverhound also has the effect. You can banish it from the graveyard along with a fusion monster to negate a spell and trap from your opponent. Even things like Dominus Impulse, Infinite Impermanence, they have ways to play around.
Yeah, I was going to make that point. If you're playing against this strategy and you're unfamiliar and you're thinking, when do I Impulse, when do I Infinite Impermanence, the real question that you need to ask yourself is, when can my opponent actually put a negate in the graveyard for my hand interactions on their opening turn?
And then we see Nick here use the Lunalight Perfume to banish it from the graveyard to add Lunalight Tiger, and then he has to send a card from his hand to the graveyard. He's not going to need a Multi Army, so he sends that. He activates that Lunalight Tiger to special summon back a Lunalight Black Sheep to the field. And now Perfume Dancer all has the effect. You can return a card on your field to your hand to special, and then you can special summon a Lunalight monster from your hand. Chooses just to return the Tiger, not special summon from the hand. Activates the Tiger again, also just once per turn, but not by name. Brings back another monster, so now he can fuse all 4 of his Lunalights. The Kaleido Chick gained the name of Leo Dancer since it sent the Leo Dancer to the graveyard, so it fulfills the requirements for the brand new Lunalight Liger.
Reminds me a little bit of Elemental Hero Prisma.
It is. It's like Prisma, but if Prisma is a cost, like, it's such a cool card.
It's Prisma, but way better.
Exactly. Now, since he sent the Kaleido Chick to the graveyard for the fusion summon, that's going to add polymerization back, and he also sent a Black Sheep. Black Sheep will add back Lunalight monster from the graveyard as well. Now he's going to use Yellow Martin's effect to return the Tiger back to the hand to special summon itself out from the graveyard, reactivates the Lunalight Tiger. Lunalight Tiger is going to special summon back Kaleido Chick. Now Kaleido Chick's going to use its effect again to send another Lunalight to the graveyard. It looks like Nick knows his Lunalights well, and going uninterrupted is being able to do everything that he wants here.
Oh, it looks like he's playing a copy of Emerald Bird. That's a card that's not a guarantee in these strategies. That's an interesting card because if one of your Pendulum monsters gets to the extra deck, it can be sometimes difficult to cycle it back. Playing cards like Emerald Bird make that more plausible.
Okay, it looks like here he did add back the polymerization from the Masquerade instead of the Kaleido Chick, so he is going to use the Masquerade effect to banish from the graveyard. So this is going to be we were just talking about 2 Liger Dancers and a Baguska, and that seems like the board that Nick has chosen to go with here.
Yeah, sometimes with Emerald Bird, you can kind of cycle back into some of the Lunalights to let you return cards. Specifically Emerald Bird from the graveyard, but there are ones that let you return back from the extra deck. But if you're not playing Emerald Bird, it can sometimes be hard to access those fringe effects. And if you're only playing 1 copy of Tiger or 1 copy of Wolf, getting those destroyed by something like a Ghost Ogre can sometimes be difficult. But by having Emerald Bird, it just gives you a little bit more coverage.
It's that toolboxy part of the Lunalight deck. There's so many Lunalights you can play just for like specific scenarios, and it's that's kind of where you have to weigh your decisions. Like, is this worth to include in my deck? And it looks like Nick has decided that it is here this weekend, but this is a tough field to deal with if you're not ready for it. He's going to concede right away. Giovanny isn't going to want to reveal what he's playing quite just yet. One Liger Dancer is hard enough to deal with, but if you're also facing down another Liger Dancer and a Baguska, it's tough.
Yeah, it's something that even if you had a strategy that could potentially combat that, the double with the Babuska, you almost need a perfect 6-card hand.
Definitely, and even if you get rid of the entire field, the Tiger's on the field to be used again. There's some follow-up in the hand as well. Because the Yellow Martin's underneath the Baguska, it's going to go back to the graveyard and be used for follow-up. So even if you can clear this incredible field, it's tough. But as I mentioned, the success of Lunalight in this tournament is going to depend on how prepared players are for it. Lava Golem is an excellent card if you don't need your normal summon. Same thing with Winged Dragon Raw Seer Mode. Like, imagine like a Seer Mode just wiping out that field. Then all of a sudden it's pretty easy to walk through.
Yeah, I think another thing to note is the popularity of some of the hand interactions that are pretty popular. For instance, Bestials lining up against the Lunalights can be something that's definitely a consideration if you're going to like to play Lunalight this weekend. Because Bestials we see as engine pieces in something like Malice. It's actually just part of the deck here that we see Giovanny piloting as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very good deck, and it's a good deck, but yeah, the B-Seals are something you want to avoid, and I do think that Giovanny has them included in his Orcus deck. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. They just wasn't able to, find them there in his opening hand, unfortunately. But this time, Giovanni's going to have the opportunity to go first and show off what new tricks the Orcus deck gained out of Battles of Legend Monster Mayhem.
Yeah, it looks like Giovanny has multiple Bestials, kind of the ones you would anticipate, but also some additional ones. So it's kind of unfortunate there that he wasn't able to see one in his opening hand.
Yeah, I mean, he might have came prepared and practiced and play tested against Lunalight, knowing that these cards would be impactful, but you can't always draw the cards that you need when you need them, but you just got to play with what you have. But I think it was smart for him to not try and play into that board because he's playing an unknown strategy, and it's a little impactful to conceal. Don't want to give those side deck opportunities to Nick here going into game number 2.
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing that a lot of duelists need to evaluate. It actually kind of reminded me a little bit of watching Pack against Clifton yesterday. Pack had the option of not revealing that he was playing Memento after that very first game, but he decided to play into the board, and
he got
somewhat close. Yeah, he got close enough to say, like, okay, I think this was worth it. But if you were, for instance, just going to set a monster and just pass back to your Lunalight opponent who has a double Liger Dancer on the field, that's just not worth doing. You have to think about, what are the odds of my ability to actually play through this field? And if you don't think that the odds are high enough, there's a lot of value in concealing your deck heading into game 2. Because Nick's not going to know what to side right now.
Yeah, he's just going to have to go like generic, like make my cards in my deck that are good when I go first, but not when I go second. Maybe take those out for some cards that are good when I'm going second. Kind of get some generic side decking there, but we're going to find out how it's going to play out here for game number 2 as Giovanny will be going first. Both these decks are rogue. you know, I would say they're combo decks, even though Lunalight can play a little mid-rangey. So going first is really impactful with these two decks going at it. All right, but it's not just, or we're going to see some more cards in here. It's going to be also playing the Millennium cards. So this is Sinjin wakes from a Millennium. So he's going to be able, I know if you play Master Duel, you're very familiar with those cards. They're very popular in Master Duel. Really good just in any sort of deck that includes the Fiendsmith cards. Because with Sinjin, you're able to get 2 monsters onto the field without using your normal summon, which can get you into something like Moon of the Closed Heaven, which turns all your Fiendsmith cards out before you even have to get started. But he's going to be met with Dominus Impulse, so he's going to be waiting for a Millennium there in the Spell and Trap zone before he can be summoned. And there's no Orcust cards here for Giovanni. It's just going to be a set Spell and Trap, and he's going to have to pass back. But Dominus Impulse being able to be used in Lunalight is one of the reasons why the strategy is an option in today's metagame.
Yeah, one of the only things that it really stops is the monster effect of Tiger, which is a light monster, but that one is one it's destroyed, you know, it can revive, and that's just not something that happens every game. It actually happens quite rare, all things considered, so it really is just a very minor inconvenience.
Barely an inconvenience, yep, and Nick is going to then lead off his turn with Foolish Burial Goods. This card is actually kind of like a starter card in Lunalight. He does play Lunalight Serenade Dance. Serenade Dance can banish itself from the graveyard to special summon a Lunalight monster from your deck, and I believe it negates the effects, but then you get to discard a card from your hand.
Yeah, not all duelists are actually playing Serenade Dance. I think we actually had a conversation before the event about your version of this deck, about whether or not it was worthwhile. If you do get to include it, though, you get to boost your starter count quite considerably, because then you obviously then have the 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. And if you just naturally draw Serenade, it's not that much of a downside, because there are so many cards in your deck that require you to discard after the effect is resolved, or kind of as the effect is resolving. So even if you naturally draw it, it's not that bad of a draw, because it can actually serve as an extender if you're combining it with some of your other Lunalight effects. But this won't negate the Serenade Dance.
No, it doesn't negate the monster effect. Okay,
no.
no. Oh, that's just Lunalight Tiger's one that negates. But we see... Okay, next up, he's going to summon Leo. Oh, did he send? Oh, he sent the Fractal with the Serenade Dance. Okay, I was like trying to figure out. I was like, wait, why is he using like the Foolish Burial Goods just on the field? I thought he was using the Tri-Brigade Fractal, but he's sending that for the Serenade Dance to special summon the Leo.
I see.
Okay, I was trying to figure it out for a minute, but I got it. So now Leo's effect's going to activate to add the Yellow Martin, and then he has to discard the Yellow Martin, buy a card effect. So he's going to be able to add a Lunalight spell. He's going to be looking for that brand new Lunalight Masquerade. But it looks like Giovanni might have some interactions. That's another thing. When you only have like one card to get your engine going, and then they stop it, you can almost all but assume the other cards in the hand are going to be some form of like disruption.
Yeah, it's very rare that your opponent, who just made one play with one starter, isn't holding 4 kind of non-engine cards. So you have to kind of be wary of that.
All right, so the Ash Blossom's going to cut off the access to Twilight Masquerade, but now we see why Nick discarded the Tri-Brigade Fractal, because he already had Foolish Burial, and they're both kind of trying to do the same thing. So the Foolish Burial is going to send Silverhound, and since it was sent there by a card effect, it's going to special summon a Lunalight monster from the deck.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important thing. Whenever your opponent discards a card, you should always question, why is it Fractal? Because Fractal is actually a pretty good card.
Essentially a starter, yeah.
Why would your opponent discard it? That might not necessarily mean you shouldn't be using Ash Blossom there, but it is just some piece of information that you should be using to maybe potentially find the absolute perfect time to activate Ash Blossom, because, it is a pretty clear indicator that there's some additional extender if your opponent's willing to discard a Fractal earlier in the turn.
Yep.
All right, so it looks like he summoned the Kaleido chick and sent the Leo to the graveyard. So now he has a Spell and Trap negate online if he so chooses. He's going to discard the Lunalight Black Sheep from the hand. I was a big fan of this card in Zodiac back in the day. That was my
Sheep?
Yep, I used it a lot. We were making Emerald. We were using Black Sheep. We were using Fusion Substitute. Oh, I miss those days. But I do love that it is now used like in the deck where it belongs, and not just a search from Zodiac Broadpool.
I wonder how
it's even stronger in Lunalight. It does so much more in Lunalight than it ever did in that deck. You can also add back a Lunalight monster from your graveyard when you discard it, or if you fuse with it.
It's kind of like the position that Fabled Lurie's in right now. I wonder how Lurie feels just surrounded by...
These aren't my friends.
I know, these aren't my friends.
But that's also one of the cool things about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is how cards and other themes can be borrowed to be used in other decks. It's pretty awesome. All right, so it looks like he's really contemplating his next move. He's just going to go for polymerization. This is like where you're going to see a lot of Luna Light decks like go to as their first move, is to try and get to these two monsters on the field and then be able to fuse them away. He's going to fuse away the one that he summoned with Silverhound, because the Silverhound is like the only kind of lock in the deck. So the monster you summon, you have to use it for a Luna Light.
This is going to add back a Luna Light from the grave. This is going to add back polymerization, and this is going to search Perfume.
So since he fused with Kaleido Chick and Black Sheep, both their effects are going to trigger
You can add to your hand one.
to add back a Luna Light monster from the graveyard, and the Kaleido Chick will add back the polymerization, and the Perfume Dancer will add a Perfume. Now what Giovanni, I think Giovanni thinks the Black Sheep can only add face up from your extra deck Luna Lights, but it's also from the graveyard as well.
Yeah, the extra deck one is important because, as I mentioned, if one of your pendulums, Wolf, which I don't think we really saw yet, but Wolf or Tiger find their way to the extra deck, it can be kind of an inconvenience to get it back, but you do have the ability to resolve a Black Sheep effect and get those back.
Yep, so 1 fusion summon, 3 cards added back to the hand. Now let's see where he wants to go next with this. This is turn 2, so he's going to try and find a way to get damage on the board, which is really easy in Luna Light. I didn't mention the other effect of the giant attack Liger Dancer, and that's that it can attack twice. Not over monsters, not after it destroys a monster by battle, just twice in general. So that's just by itself is almost 8,000 damage.
And I mean, he already has the Spell and Trap negate set up in the graveyard, facing down 1 set Spell or Trap cards. So, you know, depending on the makeup of Giovanni's hand, we might see kind of both ways that Liger Dancer can end the game, both as just being a big interruption, but just being a big monster in general.
Next up, he's going to activate that Luna Light Perfume. That the Perfume Dancer added to the hand, do special summon back. It's looking like Black Sheep. I mean, yeah, the Perfume has just been one of the best cards in Luna Light from the beginning. Being able to special summon back a monster and then banish from the graveyard to add a Luna Light to your hand and then be able to discard to trigger the effect. It does pretty much everything you need in Luna Light. And now it's accessible thanks to Duelist Advance. But there have been 5 summons. He's going to activate Polymerization. Then there's going to be a chain of Nibiru, so he's hoping he won't be able to fuse anything off the field. But he has another copy of Dominus Impulse in the hand to stop the Nibiru. Giovanni is not starting off his tournament with the best of luck. Meanwhile, Nick's luck is on another level. But you know all luck is? It's just preparation presented with opportunity. And without the preparation, you will never have that opportunity. So even though it seems like someone's just getting lucky in the moment, you don't know about the countless hours and time they put in right before to get to that moment.
I mean, there's a reason why players are cutting Nibiru from their decks right now. There's a few different reasons, but Impulse is definitely one of them. Sometimes you only see a singleton copy that can be searched off Granite.
Definitely.
But, you know, we see here a card that's going to be in a lot of players' decks this weekend just as the perfect counter.
Looks like he's resolving Black Sheep to add back the Leo to the hand.
Perfume.
Now he can use the Perfume. He's going to be able to discard the card from his hand to add Luna Light Tiger.
Or Wolf.
Or Wolf. Why not just go for double Liger Dancer? And he has, if he has a fusion in his graveyard, which he does, he'll be able to negate whatever spell or trap is set face down. And he has plenty of fusions.
Got the whole array in the graveyard at this point.
Luna Light Wolf lets you fusion summon by banishing the materials from your graveyard.
It's so valuable to be able to send fusions to the graveyard without actually fusion summoning, just through the nature of the archetype itself to set up that negate. Because although it is a negate for a spell and trap in the graveyard, again, as you mentioned, you do need to combine it with a fusion specifically.
Here comes another Liger Dancer. That is as much damage as a Tempai Dragon deck can probably put out, and Giovanni is going to concede, and Nick's going to take round number 1 with his Luna Light strategy, and you could tell the preparation was there. He wasn't thinking about his play. I mean, he was thinking, but not like for a long amount of time. He knew like what he could do, what he has access to, how to get where he's going, and that's like the most important part about Luna Light, is you have to have like a goal. Every play has to have a reason. Like every time you summon Kaleido Chick, you need to know exactly what you need to send down from your extra deck or deck to the graveyard at the right times. And yeah, that was piloted really well, and you know, capitalizing on some unfortunate draws there from Giovanni. Having those 2 copies of Dominus Impulse were really huge, but Luna Light is a deck that does get to pack that incredible card. I would say Dominus Impulse, like in terms of impact, it's up there in the top echelon of forms of disruption you can use from your hand.
Basically, any deck that can play it is going to play it at this point. If the attributes of your deck line up such that you can play it, it just makes sense to use it. Now, certainly there are, obviously, as the card is designed to have, some drawbacks, right? If you're playing Impulse, you have to sequence, for example, your Droll and Lockbird very differently than otherwise. You know, there's some instances, and we've actually seen this happen to Duelist, where they want to Impulse as the first interaction, but that would mean they never get to activate their Droll and Lockbird. So they let things go further, and it just kind of puts them in a bind. But assuming that you can make those concessions and you're willing to deal with that, and it also conflicts with some of the Molcharmies, it's such a powerful card that deals with cards like Nibiru and just has kind of an array of differing interactions in this format that line up to make it such a popular card.
Definitely. And yeah, especially when we just saw it was literally the game defining there, both turns. Like if that Sinjin resolves, he's able to get 2 monsters on the field, able to go into Moon, access the Fiendsmith Barge Engine, at least going to have Desiree or DDD, High Wave King Caesar or something like that. But if you said it, if your deck can include Impulse, it's probably in there. I mean, the same thing with Dominus Purge too. I think there's a lot less decks that can include Dominus Purge, but it's all the Dominus Traps are incredible cards.
Yeah, they're some of my favorite cards. I mean, I think just the nature of these hand interactions being trap cards that then have some other flexibility in other decks as well, just by nature of being normal trap cards. They function well in Labyrinth and some strategies that really like to try and not only play on their opening turn, but have some flexibility going second. And, we had Infinite Impermanence for many years as kind of the catch-all for that. But now having these cards like Purge and Impulse, again, depending on the attributes of your deck, of course. Some decks might not choose to play one or the other because of the attributes, but just having these additional options has really kind of opened up some of those strategies.
Definitely. I mean, and so going into this tournament, like with Luna Lights, I mean, that was a deck that people had on the radar, but maybe not like high up on their radar. Like it's something they think they might see, but I do think it is one of the better things that Duelist Advance has like produced for this tournament, and the players that brought it here this weekend. Like at the end of the day, Liger Dancer is an incredible card. You could like compare it to something like Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying Kings, where like once it gets out there, it's just hard for a wide variety of decks to deal with. Maybe the top decks do find ways to like incorporate things that can deal with it, like maybe just getting it off the field with something like Underworld Goddess, or there's other ways you can do it. But if you don't respect a deck like that enough, that's the perfect time where it has the opportunity to shine. And it being so new could be the reason why Nick decided to bring it here this weekend and fly under the radar and get in. But is there any other decks you think might be flying under the radar here this weekend that we might be seeing later on?
I mean, I'm hoping to see Vanquish Souls this weekend. It's hard for me to say that it's under the radar. I think a lot of players, when they opened up the new set, was advanced, and they saw some of those new Vanquish Soul cards, realized that this fixes a lot of the problems that deck had.
Vanquish Soul Holly Sue?
Yeah, Holly Sue, but just the nature of now Mad Love being a starter, searching.
The Vanquish Soul start?
Yeah, it all of a sudden increases the consistency of the deck kind of to the level that you would want for a deck that you'd bring to an event like this. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's under the radar, but it's definitely a deck that's new this weekend that I'm excited to see.
We'll have to see if we're going to see some Vanquish Soul later on for sure. But I think Jackie is standing by with our winner for our first round winners interview. So go ahead and take it away, Jackie.
That's right, I am with Nick right now. Congratulations, winning the first round of Swiss. You said your first time at NAWCQ. How are you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Pretty tired. Had a long drive, but yeah, pretty good otherwise.
Okay, you're ready for what's coming up next? You formulating a game plan?
Yeah, trying to, yeah.
Okay, what are you thinking?
I'll just keep summoning Liger Dancer. I don't know.
Yeah, what do you think of the Luna Lights deck? We were really excited to see you playing that.
It's pretty cool. I picked it up because it was really cheap way back in the day and came out with new support, so I just wanted to play it.
Okay, and I want to talk to you about your mindset during that duel. The first game went by very swiftly. Were you feeling confident the whole time? What was going through your head?
Yeah, I was a little worried about, getting hand trapped to death, Droll, all that, but he didn't have anything, unfortunately, and I just remembered my combo and laid it all out there, and I felt pretty good once I had it out there.
Okay, and you told me that you've been playing for nearly 2 decades. How does it feel to be here, look at this crowd, all these people cheering you on?
Yeah, it's really cool experience, just after all these years.
Okay, awesome. Is there anything you want to say to the fans watching at home?
Shout out to the Rebels. They're at a tournament right now, Ultimate Frisbee. And shout out to my friends and family that are here cheering me on. And all things Misplay.
Great. Thank you so much, Nick. Congratulations. Getting some claps from the crowd. Going to send it back to our casters.